Okay, looks like we're live. So, hello everyone. We're back with Jin for another AI Yap Sesh that we try to do every 2 weeks. Sometimes it's every 3 weeks. And we're here with TM from CoinGecko today. So I don't know if you saw that Gecko Terminal has integrated cookie.fun API and data lately. So that makes them like the first aggregator that's showing the social mindshare data for AI alongside the trading and token data. So this is really exciting. It's so great to have you here, TM. And I'm going to give it away to Jin now to just yap everything AI.
Yes, awesome, Christina. Thank you, and then also shout out to the entire Cookie team. Hosted an amazing event in Denver. Very cool.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
my name's Jin. I'm head of marketing at Nuffer Labs. I live and breathe AI. I think because I didn't get out enough as a child. Played a lot of video games. Love emergent behaviors in games. So AI kind of feels like that for me. If people spend your time trying to make the GTA NPCs do like weird stuff, like put them in strange positions and like see what they do to get out. Like that's kind of what AI is really, right? It's just kind of fun. But anyway, TM, love to find out who you are and introduce yourself if that's all right. Then we can jump in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I think excited as well with all the work that the team has put in to collaborate with Cookie. Excited to also see the announcement that came in yesterday. So we can probably go into more details later in the session. But yeah, myself, I'm TM, one of the co-founder at CoinGecko. Just a little bit about CoinGecko is like we started back in 2014. Next month will probably be about 11 years old. And basically, we see a future where anything that can be tokenized will be tokenized, and there'll be millions of tokens, which we are sort of like rightly seeing it at this point. And these tokens are publicly traded in the open market, and it's a wild west, and you can't really make sense of them. And our job is to make this data easily understandable and accessible to everyone, whether you're a trader, enthusiast, or even up to developers. We sort of do that through our three main products: CoinGecko, our API, and Gecko Terminal. I think excited to also discuss about AI because that's also something that I've been spending a lot of my time as well to wrap my head around it. I think sometime uh, towards the end of last year, I finally had the time to just deep dive into crypto AI agent, and really just catch up with what has been going on, and it's been quite exciting. And our team over here is equally so as well. Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Thank you. Before we dive into cookie integration, I think I just really appreciate the fact I get to talk to you today because I think CoinGecko is one of like the core institutions of crypto, right? Everyone just kind of thinks of it like electricity. You don't think about it, but where else do we go to check the main thing that we kind of spend all our time thinking about, right? Which is tokens. I'd love to hear a bit more about the story of why you founded CoinGecko and what's the journey been like.
Yeah, I suppose it all started with probably more like a hobby. So I think sometime in 2012, 2013, that's when I first learned about Bitcoin. I sort of dismissed it. Never really got too deep into it, but we thought like, hey, we have some technical skills, and we wanted to just build something for the space. So that's when we sort of like started CoinGecko as a side project. And the first inception of CoinGecko wasn't really set out to become a price tracker like what we see today. There's a bit of overlap with what you guys are doing with Cookie. In the earlier days, when Dogecoin came out, you also pick our interest, like why Dogecoin, which is like a meme coin, has value, and that was like probably one of the first meme coin that came about, and there were a lot of other similar like Bitcoin clones and whatnot that were going on at the time, and we were just trying to figure out like what kind of formula or scoring mechanism that we can use to value all these different cryptocurrency. So that was the initial part of it where we were tracking things like developer activity, this thing called public interest, which is what like social metric these days. And then there is this market cap, liquidity, and a bunch of different submetrics to create this thing called a Gecko score. You probably find some of these old materials if you go into the internet and read up old articles, that you will see that we were doing stuff like that. So that was at the initial point. And then I think over the years, as we build along and we speak to users, iterate the product, a lot of the users don't really appreciate or understand like what this score is. It was really hard for us to explain to the community, and that's when we sort of like give sort of pivot our product to make sure that we could track market data for all the tokens and all the coins that are out there. I think this was sometime in 2018 when there's already a proliferation of tokens because of Ethereum, and then later on with all the other chains in 2020 with DeFi and whatnot. So that's kind of like how CoinGecko sort of like evolved to become a data aggregator, price tracker, and yeah, it all started off with just myself and Bobby being just really interested in the space and wanting to put out a solution that solves a problem iteratively. Yeah.
No, that's a great story, and I think that a really important point there, which is you started it because you were interested in it, right? You weren't thinking like, what's the thing that's going to be like all the data on the market and like where is the competitive analysis gap? You're just like, I like this, I'm interested, I'm going to build something that's useful for me, which I think is the foundation of all great products. And that's super interesting. You mentioned that, I remember back in, I think it was like 2016, 2017, when post Ethereum release, everyone was like, oh my God, there's too many ERC20s. And we thought there was too many tokens at that point, right? Which is so funny looking back now. Yeah, very, very, very good times, but funny times. So you mentioned that you pivoted from, sorry, dude, go on.
No, I think I wanted to say that when Ethereum came to be, how you interact with the wallets, like you go to your web wallets, you go to MetaMask. I wouldn't even think that people be comfortable interacting with those kind of interface. But when DeFi summer hit, like everyone is willing to figure out, learn, and now I think the UI has of course improved tremendously. But it just shows that sometimes we just get caught off guard being like early adopters in some of this evolved technology.
Absolutely, that's a great point. Is that I think when there's speculative stuff involved, people are willing to do more to explore things, I think, which is why we've got, I think, such an interesting industry, right? Because if a lot of the products we have today, if it was released as an app on the App Store, people would get like 2 clicks in and be like, I can't be bothered to do this. I've got a bridge, got to do this, got to do that. So I think a lot of the friction also drives innovation. Because then people try and find new ways of doing quite complex things under the hood. I was going to ask you, what was the process like pivoting from, because you originally must have thought, okay, we're going to do this social score, we're going to do this. What was that decision like? And was it tough or was it easy?
Yeah, it was tough because we've been doing this like blended social score, this blended metric thing for maybe about 4 years in. And I remember the time where we kind of ask ourselves, like, are we ready to just flip the switch and just change the homepage? So the homepage was sorted by this blended metric. Most people, when they land on the CoinGecko at the time, they don't really get like, why is this coin like ranking like number 5, number 6 when it has a higher market cap? Those kind of stuff are hard to explain. And we were saying that, a lot of our users do come, a lot of our majority of the users do come into CoinGecko knowing like what they are looking at. So then we were saying like, okay, when we flip the switch, like the next day, the entire homepage rankings is going to change to like market cap ranking or volume and stuff like that. So it was hard being so heavily invested in what we have been working on for 4 years. But after the switch, maybe there's a couple of minority that sort of like voice out like, hey, you should reverse back your UI and everything, but we just stick with it because we realize that this is probably what the majority of the market wants and needs at that time. And everybody wanted to see like what's the valuation of their coin, right? Especially when new coins come in, the supplies are opaque and whatnot, and those are a lot of the hard work and just figuring out the workflow in terms of getting all this verified, which is core to like the CoinGecko workflow, even after today when we list coins. Yeah.
There's a great Jeff Bezos quote, right, which is if the data and the anecdotes don't match up, believe the anecdote. And I think a lot of teams are like, no, we should stick with our current plan because this is what everything supports them. But if you've got a bunch of people banging down your door saying, we want this thing, it's probably wise to stick to it. And after that, did you see any changes? Did you see like positive impacts after you changed?
It's not immediate. I think it's more of a foundational setting sort of thing. So we didn't really expect to see like a step up, but I think in hindsight that was the only way to grow in the market because at the time it's just a small niche community. Even developer activity, I remember when the market was down, like everybody starts looking at developer stats. There's a little bit of interest. At the time we were aggregating all the repository styles, the issues, the conversation in there. But after the market starts moving and one of people just move away from that. So I think for us, we're just looking at how can we continue to grow along with what the industry wants. And yeah.
I understand, because when times are down, people look for a number go up that they could differentiate anything. And I think you raise a really interesting point there, which is at the start, people didn't care about the social score because they were trying to just look, I just want to know what the valuation is. I think that as the longer the industry is around, right, even the retail participants become more and more sophisticated because, sentiment analysis was around for close to, I think, almost 10 years now, at scale algorithmic sentiment analysis. But retail has only really just started talking about mindshare and social analytics recently. So I guess it's interesting that now we're finding a more sophisticated journey into the market. So let's jump into the cookie integration. What drove this? What does it do for you guys? How does it work?
Yeah, like I said, we are definitely keen when it comes to social data. We tried it. Maybe the timing just wasn't right for us, but right now the timing looks on point. Like everyone is referring to social metrics and using that to make a decision and to also power their application and whatnot. So I think at the time we were looking at some of these things and we realized that this is not core to what we do. Like we are already just very busy with aggregating price data, making sure that it's correct and whatnot, and we're definitely not looking to do anything related to social. And then I think definitely I think we reach out to the cookie team to figure out like what we can do together. I think there is a lot of synergy with each other. You guys are focused in social data, mindshare data. Our users are also like interested in those data. When they're looking at the coins and they're researching their coins in their watch list on CoinGecko, looking at their portfolio, they want a way to also access this kind of data. I think it's the same thing like total value log. People want to have that alongside all the market data that they are researching on. So finding a way to bring this data centered to them, and we're also getting a lot of service requests. We realized that hey, this is a good synergy, and let's work together and find ways to spread this information, because I also agree that as the industry matures over time, these kind of data points gets more and more appreciated. Of course, in the earlier days, everyone just look at numbers and price and whatnot, which is where we were at in the earlier part. But again, I still think that fundamental or some degree of submetrics and other metrics are equally as important, because how else would you justify certain kind of early signals that's going on in the market? And of course, what's interesting with this space is that there's no industry standard, and guys like with mindshare and everything is sort of like trying to pave the way for what the industry will look like maybe 10 years from now, that becomes something that people refer to. Yeah,
definitely. It's interesting you mentioned that, because I think that fundamentals are widely ignored in this market to some extent, because mindshare is important, but it's a very late stage in the value chain, right? It's kind of like a recursive function where if there are some things that have high mindshare, there is a certain market pool that will bid that. But then you have things like Pi Network. I don't know if you've been following it. They've been building for like 5 years. Nothing on crypto Twitter, no mindshare, no smart followers either, and they're launching at 20 billion FTV, right? So I think there's a significant gap in the market that's not looked at by crypto Twitter, and we're kind of almost iteratively going higher and higher and higher resolution on the things that we do look at, but there's a big pool of stuff we don't. I think maybe that's the next stage is finding ways to tap asymmetric data sources and kind of internal type things, like when in TradFi, when they have all these kind of deep DD things that people actually do look at. I think that's probably the next stage of crypto, because we're gonna probably reach we saw what happened with meme coins, right? We reached the crest of the cycles were like a couple of hours. We used to be weeks to months at least, so pretty interesting. So in terms of what's next for CoinGecko, because I think that's quite an interesting place to be, as the data layer of crypto is a tough space to be in, and I think that foundationally, when it comes to AI, we've kind of reached the end of what you can do currently. Test time compute boundaries are kind of coming to an end. Reinforcement learning, it's that you get diminishing gains with more GPUs, right? I think the next angle is people are going to start expanding into the context space. Like what are the best data layers you can tap into to make these models smarter and do interesting things? But I guess, sorry, the question is, what's next for CoinGecko? Where are you guys looking at in terms of expansion or additional things, or are you going to stay to the core focus?
Yeah, we're most probably going to be laser focused to our core. As I mentioned earlier, our mission is, we see there's going to be millions of tokens and things are going to get really, really confusing. And we have these three main products that is all centered about just providing market data to all different kinds of audience. So on the DEX tracker side, I think we are relatively new with Gecko Terminal. And we're also kind of, in a way, late to the game, going to put it that way. I think also when we built Gecko Terminal, we weren't set out to build a DEX tracker. Like initially, it was really just to scratch our back with a way to provide data to CoinGecko. This was when DeFi summer happened. There were a lot of alternative L1s, L2s, and we need to have first-party data to the on-chain metrics and on-chain trades because we were using a lot of third-party provider at the time, and they weren't able to keep up with some chains has like higher faster block time and whatnot, and things are just very chaotic. So we decided to just build that portion ourselves to power CoinGecko, and then at the same time when we realized that, hey, why don't we just turn it into a DEX tracker, right? We can build a consumer fund facing layer, and then after that, also build a developer part as well, where APIs are there so that developers can access on-chain DEX data and whatnot. So I think we are still there is still a lot of problems that needs to be solved. We're always getting feedback from users that they wish some things can be better, and new kinds of tokens gets launched, new kind of change, new kind of DEXs, and there's a lot of technical hurdles that we need to work on as well. So I would say that staying to our core, focus on this is still going to be our major part. Would there be a new set of product? I mean, right now it's not something on top of my head at this point of time, but as the space grows, we just have to adapt to it. Just like the crypto space is probably the most surprising one, in my opinion. Yeah.
I understand. Before we did this stream, I was kind of looking at the journey of CoinGecko over the years, and I found a great stat, which was in 2014, you guys launched with an initial 20 cryptocurrencies on your list. Is that right?
Yeah, because we were doing this social metric thing and or this blended score, and we can only do it for like 20 coins. So that's why we only launched at 20 coins. But I think there were a couple of like 100 over, I think, at the time. Yeah.
Amazing. That's crazy, isn't it? Like, I love it. There was only a couple of hundred at the time. That's really fun. I'd love to, if we connect offline, I'd love to see like early screenshots of it, because I'd love to see what it looked like back in the day. So in terms of, because the one thing that I want to talk about was something new and very relevant that I think in 2023, you put in proof of reserves data into exchange trust scores and things like that. And that's super important. So I think what a lot of people don't consider when they're looking at data platforms such as yourselves is there's a lot of behind the scenes work with integrations and connecting all the different exchanges and stuff. What's that process like for you guys? How do you manage it? Because there must be hundreds of exchanges that you have to speak to and individual technology stacks. How does that work?
Yeah, so there is two. So there are two types of exchange: centralized exchange and decentralized exchange. I think the centralized exchange part has been something that we've been doing since day one, and it is really writing modules and just integrating with all the exchanges and making sure that all the data that we bring in gets translated into a schema that we understand, and then we can then display and slice it and dice it into all kinds of layer to different users. So I think this is largely a very standardized process because all centralized exchange tend to operate in a very similar way. So in terms of the technical side of things, that it's largely the same, but of course there's a lot of like operational stuff that we got to do as well, like making sure that the data is up to spec, and then how does the what are sort of data that comes in, what are the kind of exchanges that are being operated. So that's more of a qualitative side of things which goes into the listing process at CoinGecko. And then the decentralized exchange part is the one where I think that one keeps evolving every few months or every year. So when we built the first version sometime in 2021, right after DeFi summer, we thought that, it's just going to be an EVM thing, right? So we built it in such a way that we can scale for EVM, we can add new chains quite easily, we can add new DEXs like easily as well. And then later on, like, a different kind of flavor comes in. You got your Solana, you got your Move, you have Aptos Sui and whatnot, and then even the DEXs are also coming up with new form of for example, a Uniswap. They have a Uniswap V4, which is totally different than what it was in V3, and V3 is different than what it was in V2. So it's a lot of like keeping up with the space, understanding like what these decks are doing, making sure that our code works for those dexes, and really it's just catching up with the space. So yes, you are rightly so that there's a lot of all these like things that people don't see in the back office, where there's a lot of plumbing work to just make sure that all the numbers are coming in correctly so that we can display it accurately to our users. So we definitely try to find a solution that is modularized so that we can generalize the solution to various different kind of chain and dexes, but we're not always that fortunate because there's always something new that we just got to build the first time, and it may not be the best solution. And then when the second thing shows up that looks similar, then only we figure out like, oh, how do we generalize this thing? Because it's just going to be a proliferation of in crypto, everything is always like a proliferation of your tokens, your marketplace, your launchpad, your dexes and whatnot. So I think that's the nature of the decentralized, movement or the open source nature of the space. Yeah.
Definitely. And then especially everyone has their own standard, right? And then someone tries to make a standard that combines all the other standards and it's a new standard. It's quite funny how that goes. With regard to, I think we're touching on this fact that you guys have kind of got the pipes to almost everything in crypto, right? Have you got any plans? Because I know a lot of people are using your API for up to the minute data, and it's a very impressive engineering achievement because you offer free API access, and the scaling to that, I think the stats I found was like 10 billion calls or something crazy. Could you give us any stats of your API, like how many people are using it and stuff like that?
Yeah, I can't remember what's the latest figure. I think that number was reported like few years ago. Yes, we started off in 2018 or 2019 where we launched the API for the first time, and it's public, it's free, and we saw how important that public. We think of it as a public goods, public infrastructure, because a lot of developers were coming in at the time. There was not much of a business case to build anything in crypto at the time. So people were just starting out side projects, and if you can give them price data, I think there will be a net positive for the industry. I mean, that was like the initial trigger point on why we did that. And I think over the year, of course, the cost and everything starts like ballooning, and that's why we need to have enterprise solution as well to manage that, and also to ensure that we can give the best quality for businesses that are serious about their data. So that's why we tiered the service, but we still have this free plan that is still ongoing, like up to now. In terms of stats, I don't have the exact figure, but I think like despite what we are seeing right now with the market, where things are cooling off, you may say that is it a bear market or is it like a correction and whatnot. But I must say that the developer interest is still healthy based on what we see in terms of the API usage, the API subscribers. It is really still growing, even in the current situation, in the current market condition. And these are not just crypto companies; they are traditional companies as well, TradFi, mainstream applications that wants to add some crypto capability, and they need like pricing data, and we are seeing a lot of adoption on that front. So what this kind of tells me is that even though things the market don't look great, but builders, developers, entrepreneurs understand the value in crypto, and there is a sizable audience that they want to reach, and that's why they're enhancing the application with crypto capabilities. So I think that's one signal that looks very positive on my end, at least on the dev and builder side. Yeah.
That's good to know for my bags, dude. Appreciate that. That gives me a lot of confidence. That's a really interesting point you raised, right? Because it sounds like you created the API suite for free without any real business case, but you just saw it as a good thing, and then that generated an entire new product line for your company. I think there's a lot of lessons there for a lot of people where if you do stuff that's probably useful to people, and even if the business case isn't clear right now, because I think there's a lot of parallels in crypto, right? Everyone's fighting over the same liquidity, the same users, the same attention. I think that there's a lot of stuff to be said about going for different liquidity. Like that's something that we're doing at Nuffle, where essentially trying to unlock global liquidity, places that people aren't looking, like XLM, like XRP, like ADA, which is actually quite interesting because the strategic reserve now mentioned ADA and XRP. So it shows, I think, we're on the right lines. One thing I wanted to mention was you guys are famously independent, right? I think that's a huge thing when it comes to information sources, because essentially you guys are an oracle, right, for crypto. What's that process been like staying independent? I'm sure you've had lots of offers and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's so I think originally we started CoinGecko as a hobby project, so we never set out to raise money even in its inception. And I think also like Bobby and I both have this, like we follow this philosophy by Basecamp, where try to bootstrap your way as much as you can and maybe turn it into a viable business. And the faster you turn it into a viable business, in which case you generate profit, you can actually reinvest back into the company, and then it is possible to actually grow into a pretty decent business. So we didn't really think of turning it into a large scale business with venture outcome and whatnot, but we really just wanted to make sure that it's net positive so that we can just reinvest back and grow and solve the problem bit by bit. So that was like the initial part of it. And over the year, there is, of course, this thought like, do we want to raise money in order to maybe do certain things that we can't do? There are a couple of offers that come in, but I think we always we were naive, I would say. As the crypto market started small and then it slowly expands, we always say that okay, maybe we can hold it off and try to solve this problem ourselves and see where we hit a stumbling block, right? So I think we just keep postponing the whole this whole thought about raising money. I mean, it's quite an effort as well. Like we are always laser focused in just wanting to improve the product. But if you do like fundraising, then we have to maybe put a pause on that and do the whole fundraising activity and stuff like that. So we were just really laser focused about improving the product and making sure we catch up with the industry, that we just never thought about it. And over time, I guess the business grew, and yeah, I think as long as we managed to keep the business growing and pay for services and everything, and yeah, I think largely we choose that being independent is one pathway for us potentially. We don't know how long that can go, but we want to run it for as long as we can. And also because we take a very community centric approach as well. Like we always try to reach out to our users, reach out to our community, and ask them like what they want to see with the product and everything. And if it makes sense, we'll try to add it into our roadmap. And as long as it's aligned with our strategy, we try to go for it. So I think that's sort of like worked out well in the way we run the business. I would say it's definitely not for everybody. Like some people are better running a venture scale company, while some run bootstrap. I think there's no right or wrong answer. It's a matter of choice, I believe, for the founders. Yeah.
Understood. I think that I mean, this is like the opposite of crypto, right? You make a real product, you're not raising money, you just make it useful for people. I think it's refreshing because everyone's so sick of endless L2s and endless new chains and all this kind of stuff that has no real use case or revenue. It's a solution looking for a problem. I guess if there's a lot of people listening probably thinking about starting their own project or starting their own business. If you had any like key pieces of advice to give them, what would you say looking back at CoinGecko?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to point out is also that we started at a time where things were less competitive. So in a way, you can say that it is possible to bootstrap your way. Maybe like 5-6 years ago. Today, I still think it's possible if you are looking to if you don't want to sort of have the pressure to grow fast, and you have the ability to take your time to figure something out, figure a solution out. Because the problem is that the industry is getting more and more competitive today, which is why I think a lot of people set out to raise money as soon as they can so that they can outcompete the competitors, right? So I think there is that part that's going on. Although I do see like some builders that they try to build something fun, and then somehow they manage to turn a profit, and then they have full flexibility on deciding whether they want to stay independent or raise. But I think the key thing is that you want to have the flexibility, right? So the good thing is that if you bootstrap early and you put yourself in a good position where you have good profit, and you have good traction, pretty much you have options on what you want to do. Even if you were to raise money, you can also choose who you want to raise from and whatnot. Um, so yeah, I guess when it comes to bootstrapping, focus on trying to ensure that you can bring the dollar in as soon as possible, or find a business model that work, because that's the one that's going to ensure that you won't be pressured to make certain choices that you're not comfortable with. Yeah.
It sounds like you picked an area that was relatively untapped at the time, and I think that's probably something that people now could probably learn from is choose an area that's not necessarily saturated, right? But it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
One thing that I've noticed internally in our team, as well as just in general in the space, is how much is your team using AI, whether in terms of the development side or the social side? I'm keen to understand how, like, a large enterprise integrates it, if at all. There's no right answer to this.
Yeah, we're sort of considered a medium-sized company. So adoption is not too bad. I would say that we started exploring that sometime end of last year. I think for the longest time, I never really spent enough time to figure out like how AI can contribute to our workflow. But I think after spending those few months, it became very clear to me that yeah, there is a very clear use case on the enterprise side of things, right? So your support side, your engineering coding, your workflow, writing drafts, brainstorming. I think all these are something that I believe a lot of companies are already adopting. And for us, we had the thoughts that if we don't do it, then we're just gonna fall behind. So yeah, we adopt almost all of these things. Like whether they are adopted to perfection or not, that remains something that we can tune, because sometimes you can't really just subscribe to an AI service and then boom, you get value from it, right? You need to sort of like figure out how to change the way you do certain things, and then after the AI output comes in, what do you do with it? So I would say that it helps, but it doesn't really sort of like swap or replace what we do. But yes, generally the our back office, we try to AI-fy like as many things as we can. Whatever interesting tools that comes on the market, we will look at it, try it out. If it looks great, we keep using it. Yeah. And then on the consumer side, you generally don't see any AI powered features on CoinGecko. But actually there are some part of the site that are sort of like powered by it implicitly. Because I think a lot of feedback that I get is that, hey, why don't you have a chat feature on CoinGecko? And I'm not really a big fan of a chat interface. If I have a
I
choice,
agree.
because it gets really like once the context or the conversation becomes very long, like you get lost in the weed. And I'm also trying to figure out like if you can't be better than the generalized model out there, then there's not really enough value proposition for a chat interface within CoinGecko itself. So I think we are toying with a few different ideas. Like it's not going to be very obvious when there's an AI helping you something, but that's sort of like what we are working on right now. Yeah.
I think you raised a really good point, because there's always a time and onboarding cost to any technology or any person, really. It's kind of like onboarding in person. You've got to have the best companies that integrate, I think, have very, very clear processes and SOPs, but that doesn't always translate to good value for the company, right? Because you need to be nimble. You need to be, a lot of processes are messy, even in the late stages of companies. If I was ever going to found my own thing, or my own company, I think it would be something that, well, to preface this is, everyone's focusing on the execution side. Everyone's focusing on what is the coolest thing that AI can do. How can we do this? But I think no one's focusing on the internal context side. If there was a single plug and play service that could zero knowledge absorb all of me, my company data, all of our conversations, everything, and then provide almost anonymized permissioned access to different AI services, I think that would probably be bigger than OpenAI and Anthropic, right? Because even those, you have to connect your own context. I think that's a huge opportunity for teams to be able to do that, because it takes away this onboarding gap. I think because I'm currently trying to clone myself, my thoughts, my messages, everything, so that any tool I use has full context of who I am. But obviously that comes with privacy concerns, right? So that would, if anyone's listening who wants to start something, please start it and build it, because I will use it. So I guess we're coming up to, we've got a few more minutes left. So with the cookie integration and just AI in general, are you seeing any kind of differences in traffic or any insights that people may not be privy to that you can see from your end?
Yeah, I think lots of initial excitement with this new addition. So what you see is a Gecko terminal integration that's coming in. I think we definitely want to explore more ways to showcase this data. I think right now there's only two places. One is there's this new AI agent section that you can see the trending mindshare AI agent tokens, and then there's also the social metrics that come from cookie in the token page. So I think that's just the beginning. I think we would love to find other creative ways to surface it to our users, definitely. And then we are also exploring a CoinGecko integration as well. So we would love to also bring all the social metrics to our flagship product on CoinGecko, and then again, like get the feedback from the users and then iterate from there. So I think right now there's a lot of initial excitement, but we know that this is just the first way of highlighting data, and there are many other ways for users to explore and use it, and we'll iterate from their feedback. Yeah.
Understood. And because you're sitting on essentially a treasure trove of information and data, right? Are there any plans to? I know that people use APIs to access the data, but you have access to full context of everything. Are there any plans to vectorize this data or even add some of it to a knowledge graph of some kind and build some kind of intelligence on top of it? Not necessarily a chatbot, but something that can deeply understand patterns and statistical significance and then give maybe like probabilistic insights on top of it. Because I think LLMs are probabilistic, right? And your data is deterministic. And if you can find a combination between the two and something sits on top of it and is able to like deeply understand everything that's ever happened in CoinGecko data, I think that'd be incredibly powerful for not just individuals but institutions. Any plans for that, or this sounds like a pretty expensive and maybe not unclear undertaking?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed that internally. I think it's more of like eventually we will get there, hopefully, if things go well. Although it's not an immediate plan to race towards that direction, because we know that there is still a lot of like the gap, as you mentioned, like yeah, that future is possible down the line, but there's still a huge gap in terms of where we're at right now towards getting there. I think there's still a lot of missing data, and maybe just vectorizing them. We feel that there is a lot more plumbing work that needs to be done to ensure that we perfect like the current use case first, and then eventually get to that point where yeah, we vectorize them, put it in a knowledge graph, and then anyone can use it, we can use it, and then you can probably generate a new insights out of it. So it's something that we talk about, but not an immediate thing to get to yet at this point.
Understood. Very cool. And I guess the last question would be, you're in a very unique position in seeing essentially the flows of both attention and value in the space with the data that you have access to and exchange relationships. What changes have you seen occur in the last year? And secondly, where do you think things are going in general in crypto based on what you've seen?
Yeah, I think we can talk about what has happened in the last few months. I think definitely the market has cooled off a lot. One of the signal that we look at in terms of just measuring like our traffic, our load, because this ties into our operations, is the listing application. So tokens or coins that wants to get listed on CoinGecko will have to send in their request form, and they go through a listing process. And I think sometime we saw an all-time high sometime early last year, and sometime in December, January, when Bitcoin is at 100K, and with all the meme coins going on and whatnot. But right now, just within the span of like 1 week, it has cooled off to August baseline, which I think was one of the lowest in 2024. So the correction is very fast, very massive. And then same is true on the Gecko terminal side as well. We're looking at number of new tokens that were found on the liquidity pool. Again, they're also going back to sometime in like August baseline as well. So those are like the short-term stuff. But I think I still hold a pretty positive like long-term view of the industry. I mean, that's why we are all here, because there is a lot of things going on the enterprise side, as you can see with regulations, things are getting clearer. Stable coins are getting adopted by various different parties, even your traditional finance companies, your banks are looking into it. So I think that we are definitely onto something. And then on our end, as I shared earlier, on the developer front, there is a lot of builders coming in to build products and services along the space. So I think there is a lot of early signal that the space is still growing, and all we probably need is time. So if you hold a long-term view of the space, then you're probably going to be doing all right. Although, given what is happening with the global or macro environment, things are going to get really, really choppy. So maybe make sure that everything in your portfolio is are coins that you truly understand why you're holding it in the first place, because otherwise you're in for a roller coaster in the next few months by the look of it. Yeah.
In for a wild ride. I think that's a well. First of all, please can we have that graph of listings of that listings frequency applications? I think that'd be a super useful index to keep track of. I'll definitely be in your DMs trying to get that graph off you. But I think the next few months being a roller coaster is something we can agree on. Listen, TM, it's been fantastic chatting to you, mate. It's really cool to hear about the insights behind CoinGecko and the cookie integration. Anything you want to finish with and tell the people who are listening or watching?
Yeah, I think definitely just hop over to Gecko Terminal. That's where the first integration with Cookie has happened. Let us know what you think. If there's anything that you like us to improve on, just share your feedback on Twitter, and then we will definitely take that feedback and figure out what we can do better. And yeah, just stay tuned for further integration, and we're also again looking at on the CoinGecko side as well in the next coming months. So yeah, I think that's all. Try it out and let us know.
I'm
Appreciate
so
Sounds
seeing you.
great, dude.
bullish. I'm so bullish on this data integration because I feel like so much is happening on crypto Twitter, and then having that in one place is so great. And also, Jen, I can't wait for when this loan comes to this stream and I don't even realize.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the way. It's on the way. Everything's being ingested. I don't know. It's kind of scary, but it's also pretty fun. We're at a stage now where I'm trying to test documents that I need to review and then sending it to the bot. And then if the bot gives the same feedback that I would have given in the first place, that's kind of like trying to get fidelity, I guess, which I think is a sci-fi thing from Blade Runner. It's like fidelity, how close is your synth to yourself. But anyway, weird times, but fun times.
Yeah, wow. I'm waiting for it. Thank you so much, guys, for joining, and also to everyone listening. I hope you find it useful or entertaining, either or both. Thank you so much, guys, for joining, and
Awesome.
see you next time, Jen.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Bye.
Follow
Thank
Nuffle
you.
Lab so don't get fired. Thank you. Bye bye.
Good one. Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.